into our next conversation. We're in conversation with Jon Foster Pedley, who's joining me on the line all the way from the United Kingdom. And we're talking about innovation as a word. Is it an overused buzzword, or is it something that all of us should aspire to and should really want to get involved in? Good evening, Jon, and how are you doing?
Thank you, Bonga. It's great here.
Thank you so much for joining us.
South Africa.
Oh, you're missing us already?
Already.
Okay. Jon, as we get going, I mean, you say competitive advantage is temporary, and I just want you to unpack for us what it is you mean by this, and if you have any other examples of any products or businesses or even business models that you feel at some point in time had a competitive advantage and this was eroded in some way or the other.
Well, yes, I think we can look at our landlines and the post office. Most of those things had competitive advantages at one time, but now we don't use the post office and we don't use our landlines much. So telecoms changed entirely. I think you can find an enormous number of examples. I mean, we could have a phone in and see how many people can think of different ones. But to go back to your point about temporary competitive advantage, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because all the companies are looking for what's our permanent, sustainable competitive advantage.
Yes.
But how could that be in a situation where life is changing so fast for all of us, technology is improving so and changing so quickly, that you might have a competitive advantage for a short time, but firstly, customers will want to have something better very quickly, so you'll have to improve. Secondly, your competitors will dive into the space and imitate you and do the same, so you've got to get better than them. And technology and possibilities improve all the time. So competitive advantage is a moving target all the time, and your security is being able to innovate quickly. So security is being able to change quickly, not in staying as you were.
But, I mean, Jon, one of the other things is probably, you know, if as a business person, I have a particular kind of competitive advantage. I think if we put ourselves in the shoes of, say, the postal services, say, a few decades ago, how would one have said, or how would one have had a line of sight over what some of the changes would have been that would have disrupted exponentially the industry that they're in without some form of bone throwing? I mean, I think of the book, for instance, 1984, which sort of tried to imagine what kind of society there would be in 1984, and to some extent they missed the mark.
Well, but you used a critical word, didn't you, Bonga, and that's imagination. What we have to do is, firstly, when you think of something new, you imagine something and you try and create value for people that they will like. You experiment a bit until you get a good solution, but you're visualizing it. And then once you've got a good solution, you turn your production and your scalability and your productivity into overdrive. But what got you there in the first place was imagination, experimentation. So if you want to be competitive and you want to look forward, you can't forecast easily because it gets very vague, but you can imagine different possibilities and scenarios. And quite often, that imagination is what brings together all sorts of diverse possibilities and different perspectives to construct something that you start to feel and then test will work for people and give them more value. And then when you've got that imagination going, you start to visualize it, then you can start developing products for it. So what's very interesting is that we don't develop our imagination much in our normal work of productivity and logistics and getting things done better. But we have to imagine new value. So let's work on our imagination and also work on your empathy. Start to feel what it is that you and other people want out of the world. And those are the skills that start helping you become an innovator. And so you start inventing things. And then you've got to be very good at trying things out and correcting them when they go wrong. So there's all sorts of disciplines around innovation that when you think about it clearly, you can sort of work out, well, if I did that, I'd definitely be better at innovating. And then you need to start practicing them. But it's not what we normally taught at business because we're so besotted by efficiencies and screwing the last little bit of kind of productivity and money out of everything we're doing. Whereas what we're really trying to do is visualize new possibilities that are bigger and better and add more value.
The last question for you there, Jon, before we let you go. Organizationally, how do we build or how do we incentivize or even champion a culture that harnesses and is able to prioritize the kind of imagination that you're talking about, and that is also very much aware of the fact that organizations will need to be dynamic learning spaces and environments that are able to quickly capture some learnings of things that fail and things that succeed, but also be able to understand that competitive advantage is a shifting kind of goalpost, and therefore one needs to respond accordingly.
No, this is going to be an unpopular answer, but the first one is don't throw money at people because, you'll do some things for money, but money will never spark you to be creative or you don't force people to do it. So what you have to do is create purpose. If you engage people around that we're doing this for something that's going to add value to people and to society and to our children and whatever, and it's going to create a better world for ourselves, while that's not fashionable to be so idealistic, it's incredibly pragmatic because we all want to be idealistic and it all engages our higher faculties. Young people want to have a purpose, and that's why they join companies to put on world purpose. So first, engage purpose, and help people collaborate. Don't throw money at the best innovation idea because all you'll do is create a lot of internal competition, and that sort of competition narrows down our imagination and perspective rather than broadening it. So create a purpose which gets people engaged, and then help people by throwing resources and help them learn to experiment. We have an MBA called the MBA Plus for creative innovators, activists. And in that we teach design thinking and how to work with purpose and how to create new value and how to have a work life that's fascinating and interesting, not dull and boring. That's where you start.
Okay, Jon, let's leave it there and let's allow you to let go of that there. Jon Foster Pedley, who is the Dean and Director of the Henley Business School all the way out in the United Kingdom. And as he says, already missing us here on this end of the world. Thank you so much, Jon, for joining us for that conversation.